what is going on with the real estate market. It's been a really confusing ride over the last 3 years, and there's been so much misinformation, especially on YouTube. And so in today's video, what I wanted to do is to provide you with 6 tips of how to read real estate data, so that when you look at these real estate videos, or maybe you're talking to your real estate agent, you have a better idea of, first of all, how to perceive the data, but also you can have a better idea of whether or not they actually know what they're doing when it comes to understanding the data. If you're looking at real estate data, you've got to understand that real estate is very much a local matter. So when we look at national data, it is to determine the health of the real estate market, but that could very much differ between different states, different cities. And a good example is over on the West Coast right now, the median prices have actually fluctuated quite a bit, and in most cases it's trending downward versus the same time last year. If we look at, say, Florida and some of the other southern states, and even Northeast is doing pretty well considering what is happening on a national basis. So we typically start off high level, national, and then you start drilling down. The best way to look at market data is to refer to the median price, not the average price, which I still see a lot of people doing. The median price is a much better indication of how a market is evolving, because it takes the middle of the data set and it's a much more consistent read on the market evolution. If you take the average price, that can be heavily influenced by what economists call outliers, just one-offs, high ticket prices on homes that typically don't get sold. I'm going to illustrate how the median price differs from the average price. This top half here lists the median sales price, right? From 125,000 all the way to 750. The last number here, 750, is really an outlier where on average homes are anywhere from 125,000 to 150,000, right? So the median price here will be 140. That's the median price. Now let's just assume we're taking that same data set again, but we're looking at the average. If we were to take the average, that would bring us to $205,000. You could see right away how the average just isn't very indicative of the market as it typically is, when usually the data set is only anywhere from 125,000 to 150,000, but it's completely skewed now by that one high ticket home that was sold. All you have to do is look at these charts here, which compares average price in Florida versus the median price in Florida, and you can see that the average price over time is just very choppy from a visual standpoint, where the median price flows a lot better and gives you a much better read of how the prices are actually changing. Now, seasonality is key here, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Sale of swimsuits. Come winter time, there's going to be far less units of swimsuits sold, right? Because the weather isn't conducive to allowing you to wear swimsuits. I think this is a great example, because with real estate, the majority of the sales are going to happen right around the end of Q1, so right around March into April, May, and June. It typically peaks in June, the prices, that is. And that is because, well, you have a lot of families who are shopping right around that time. They're trying to lock in a deal right before the summer even starts to ensure that their kids are now in school. In Florida, we get an influx of folks, which we call the snowbirds. They typically come here right around November, December, January, February, and March, right? And they may be snowbirding for that season, for the winter, to escape the cold weather up north. And a lot of times they end up buying here in Florida, and they end up buying many times in cash, and sometimes it's their second and third home. And so that's what drives the seasonality here in Florida. You'll see an uptick of prices during that time, and then it starts slowing down in the summer, and prices will typically come down right around autumn into winter. Now, YouTubers, lots of them, I've seen it, they'll look at the trend, which is typically due to seasonality, to indicate that the market is crashing. When you look at seasonality over a year, you will have a high price and low price. And that price can differ by about 3 to 7%. Last year to this year, the difference was about 12%. Now, last year certainly was heightened by the increases in mortgage rates and people just sitting on the sidelines. So it was much more exaggerated. And I'm going to go pre-COVID days because I think it's a much better indication of what a more normal real estate market does typically, because COVID just kind of put everything into whack anyways. If I look at, say, 2019, that was 7%. So YouTubers are looking at these prices that now are coming down right after the summer, and they're saying, oh my God, the market is crashing. When in reality, a lot of it is just due to seasonality. And by the way, they've been talking about a crash for the last 3 years, and it's just not happened. This brings me to my third point, which is when we look at a trend analysis, we really should look at it in terms of not just what's going on a monthly basis, right? Due to seasonality mainly. What's important to understand is how the prices are changing year over year. If prices are just trending down and we're now in the fall season, then that doesn't necessarily mean that prices are crashing. If year over year the prices are holding or they're slightly above, or even if they're slightly below same time last year, it's not going to hint towards a crash necessarily if we consider all these other pressures that are being put on prices, right? Such as the increases in mortgage rates, people waiting on the sidelines because their confidence level isn't quite there where they're making a decision to purchase. There's so much more that goes into it, and that brings me actually to my next point. Prices are really dictated by one fundamental idea, and that is the idea of supply and demand. As long as you have enough demand for the number of homes that are on the market, prices will hold. But as soon as demand drops, when supply is consistently the same, that's when prices will drop as well, because there's going to be less demand for homes on the market. If supply is down and demand is holding, that's when there's going to be more people competing for the same number of homes, outbidding each other. Prices are going to go up. The current situation is one of where the number of homes on the market is lower than it was in 2021, for example, and the number of buyers on the market is lower as well. And so a lot of people are going, oh my God, why aren't the prices crashing? Because it's a fundamental supply issue. We have a shortage of homes to satisfy the number of people that are going to be buying, especially in the future. Lots of them are still waiting on the sidelines, but there's an increase in household formations, and that is people who are forming a household, they're in need of a home, whether they're purchasing or they're renting. And there's a lot of baby boomers who are now retiring, putting pressure on housing as well. A lot of economists are saying that the shortages that we're experiencing right now could actually last for years to come. Now, how do you manipulate supply and demand? Now, with supply, if more people listing their homes, right now they're not listing as much because a lot of them have been locked into a really low mortgage interest rate. But the other way to manipulate the supply in the market is by new construction homes hitting the market. And that is also kind of at a historical low. Now, how does demand get manipulated? We've seen that mortgage interest rates has a huge effect on the ability of people to purchase a home. And right now, with the higher mortgage interest rates, the higher prices, a lot of people have been priced out of the market. So there's less buyers now able to purchase a home. Demand is also manipulated by migration patterns. It's manipulated by household formation. There's a huge increase of household formation estimated to come because of the millennials who are hitting the age of 30, 31, 32, 33. They're getting married. They're looking to move into their own home. And of course, employment. Right now, the unemployment rate is pretty low. As long as people are making money, they're employed, they feel confident, there's going to be more demand for homes. What happens during a recession? This is really interesting. During a recession, usually the prices hold pretty steady, and in some cases, they've actually gone up. Isn't that interesting? It's true. And I'm going to prove my point here. So I use data from Fred, and it's for new residential sales. but it's going to give us a really good indication of how prices typically do over a long period of time. So the data goes back to 1963, and we're looking at median sales price on an annual basis. The gray shades here are U.S. recessions. So wherever you see gray is during a U.S. recession. On this column here are the percentage change year over year prices. I pulled data from 1963 to 2022, right? Because it's yearly, so obviously 2023 isn't going to be available until the beginning of next year. But the point is still going to be the same, and that is over 60 years, prices for new residential sales have only gone down 5 times. 5 times. Now, there's been long runs of increases in prices, sometimes spanning 20 years. But the point that I want to really make here is when we look at U.S. recessions, typically prices go up. Look at 1974, 1975. Prices went up by almost 20%. Let's look at 1980 to 1983. Prices here went up by close to, well, over 15%. There was a decline in 1970 where prices went down by 8%, and then it recovered the following year. And then, of course, the worst case that we remember in modern history is the recession of 2008, when prices went down by 12%. Now, these are annualized prices. When we look at the peak and the bottom price, that's going to be a bit more extensive, about 20%. During recessions, even though people are going to be losing their jobs, not everybody will. Some people are actually going to be enticed to purchasing a home because during recessions, the stock market gets hit pretty hard. So lots of people will pull out their money from the stock market and instead pour it into real estate, which is considered for many a much safer investment. Also, during recessions, the mortgage interest rates typically come back down again, opening up new opportunities for some people to purchase a home. The last point I'm going to make is that over a longer period of time, the median prices usually go up. And so a lot of people will tell you, including myself, and that is if you're risk averse and you're not too certain where the market is going to be headed, but yet you think you want a house, you want your own home, maybe you're a first-time buyer, or perhaps you're spending too much money on rent right now, and you know you're going to be in that house if you were to purchase it for a longer period of time, say 7 to 10 years, then usually in case the market does come down, if there's going to be a market crash, you're going to be able to write that out. And so what I want to show you is this graph, which is from Fred. It's the median sales price of houses sold in the United States. This is per year. The blue line here is the median price. Gray line over here, the vertical gray line, are U.S. recessions. And so you'll see that just over a long period of time, prices keep going up. There's a U.S. recession, 2008. Prices crashed, but then went up again. And then we also know what happened in 2020 and 2021. But over a long period of time, prices will just keep going up. Now, we looked at the median price, but one metric doesn't tell the entire story. A better indication is to look at a few of the more important metrics to really understand how they're working together. And so the big three, which is what most economists will typically look at the very least, is the median sales price, closed sales, and active inventory. Typically, if active listings and new listings are low, one is in a really tight market. If active inventory and the number of listings are high, then there's a supply and demand imbalance, meaning that prices will come down because there's less demand for the number of homes that are on the market. Now, do me a favor, if you enjoyed this video, please like this video. I do really appreciate it. My goal today was to give you just a little bit more information in terms of how to read data, what type of data to really wrap your head around, to provide you with just a little bit more guidance in terms of how to better navigate the whole real estate market data analysis situation, because it is super confusing. I completely get it. If you're looking to purchase or sell in my area, which is Southwest Florida, specifically Sarasota, Venice, Lakewood Ranch, and Bradenton, call me, email me anytime. I love hearing from all of you. You got to reach out though for me to be able to help you, and I'd love to help you. Thank you so much again for watching. Take care.